Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2025, and this is part 2 of Broken Rainbows, why I chose to leave the gay community. As many of you know, for 17 years, I lived my life as a gay man. I identified as a loud and proud gay man. But after much careful consideration and coming to the realization that gay is more than just my sexual orientation and that it's also a culture and a lifestyle, I have opted to no longer identify myself in that context. I felt like it definitely was not in alignment with my morals, principles, and values. And many of the behaviors that I've noticed in the community have been toxic and unhelpful and posed a threat to not only my physical health, but also my spiritual well being. You know, there are men here who are in relationships who want to play together. You know, they place higher premiums on novelty, secrecy, and anonymity than they do on loyalty, intimacy, and also fidelity. There's such a thing here as consensual cheating, where partners give each other permission to sleep around and travel, and basically just when they're in a new country, they have the permission to sleep around. And I just don't subscribe to that mentality. I think that if you're going to be in a relationship, be in that relationship. Really begin to work on building a level of intimacy that transcends lust. But in the gay community, if it just feels like lust is the primary goal. There is no real sense of loyalty, no real sense of commitment. If anything, it's more of they're together because of the rent. They're together because of they have a house together. They have a property together. There's no sense of shared morals, it feels like. And I got tired of it. I think also the culture of casual sex and casual encounters, you know, the hookup culture within the gay community is destructive. And it really dehumanizes men. I was thinking about how gay couples, want to bring in a third, and they don't care about how that third feels. They don't care about dehumanizing that third person. They don't care about treating that third person like an accessory, an enhancement to their own pleasure. All they care about is the pursuit of their own pleasure. And it just felt like I was dealing with a lot of emotional Nazis. These were emotional Hitlers. And when I say that, what I mean clearly is that Adolf Hitler was a monster. He was a man who dehumanized other cultures because he didn't think of them as human beings. And so when you stop thinking of people as human beings, it makes it that much easier to abuse, to subordinate, to subjugate them. And I see the same behaviors happening in the gay community. These men don't see other men as human beings. They see them as sexual objects, as tools to get them off. What's the difference between a man and a fleshlight? Tell me, what's the difference in the gay community? What's the difference between a man and a fleshlight? I guess breath, maybe the human breathes, but even noises of breath come from out of the fleshlight. So what's the difference? It's like this is a culture that promotes the pump and dump, the skeet and leave, the blow and go. There's no real intimacy here. And we're sitting up here putting our lives at risk, our physical health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, our mental health at risk for a bunch of men who won't show us a face picture. A bunch of men who hide their face. I always refer back to the scripture in the Bible. Read it if you have a chance. Psalms 26 verse 4. In it, it says, I do not sit with men who hide their faces. And isn't that what we're doing? We're sitting with men who hide their faces, who will not give us a picture, who will not give us their real name. They prefer anonymity. And I ask myself, why? Well, as the old saying goes, no face, no case. If you don't have their face, you can't hold them accountable. If they do you dirty, if they come over, they rob your house, if they bust you upside your head, you call the police, you don't have a name, you don't have their address, you don't have any personal information that can lead to an arrest. You don't have anything except what? A bunch of Grindr or Sniffies or whatever messages, whatever app you use, messages that will get deleted. You will be blocked. And that's another thing, this culture of block. Nobody wants to work things out. You have a disagreement, oh, you're blocked. You're blocked. Once again, that's the element of dehumanization within the gay community. They don't see you as a human being, so whatever. You have an issue with my behavior, whatever. Bye, block, block, block. No one's taking accountability. So what ends up happening is that when you don't take accountability mentally, emotionally, what ends up happening is that you create a culture of carelessness. And now you have men who will make you accountable. How? They will poison your blood. See, you don't want me in your life, but now, this is what they reason. I don't condone this, I just report. There's a lot of gay men who are online spreading HIV. They feel as though, okay, somebody gave it to me, so I'm gonna give it to them. They also, in their anger, they feel like, okay, you don't want me in your life? Well, I'm gonna take up residence in your blood. And now they're in your blood for life. Now they're part of your bloodline. Now you gotta sit up there and take 1,001 medications every single day to sustain your life. Now, every time you take that medication, you think about them. That's one way they foster intimacy. But isn't that a twisted version of intimacy? Isn't that very dark? That's very dark, having someone in your bloodstream. And that's another thing. How many of us gay men, let's just say that, how many of us gay men have basically agreed to this mentality? We co-sign this mentality. How many of us? And it's just disturbing. It's disturbing how many gay men walk out with this mentality. You know? How many gay men have contracted STDs off of one-night stands, people that they won't see again? How many gay couples consented to these open relationships, opening up their homes and their lives to a series of dangers just for pleasure, novelty, to keep the spice alive in the relationship? Well, you got some spice, all right. That burning clap between your legs, that's spicy. Now there's a spice. It makes no sense. And as I'm waking up to the contradictions, that's what motivated me to actually just lead the life, because in the beginning, this was a life that promoted brotherhood, care, concern. You were looking out for your partner. You were trying to build a relationship. Not now. Now there's just too many couples who don't believe monogamy is realistic. And this is in both heterosexual and in homosexual relationships. People don't believe that you could do monogamy. There are men that I know who allow their boyfriends, and also women I know too. Women I know who allow their bisexual boyfriends to have a bisexual apartment. And this sounds foolish, but this is real. I call it a bisexual apartment because in this apartment, they're allowed to realize their fantasies. In this apartment, they're allowed to have sex with other men. They're allowed to do all these things. And then after they come back from their vacation, then they can come back and resume a life of heterosexuality. There are women that consent to this. Go to your bachelor's pad, and then come back fulfilled. But this is why so many women are living with HIV, because they've consented to their own destruction. Gay men allowing their partners to sit up there and go on vacation and have all these wild experiences. Now they place themselves at risk, because when this partner comes back, they're loaded up with disease. And of course they say, well, we have agreements and we have a lot of communication, and there's communication. I'm gonna tell you this from firsthand experience. There are some people who could bring out certain things in you sexually that even your partner can't. There are some things that a stranger can bring out in you sexually that a partner can't. There are also some men who suffer from a Madonna whore complex, where with their partners, they'll have vanilla sex, right? They'll have vanilla sex, this missionary, loving, caring. But with these other boys, they'll get to the nitty gritty. They'll get down and dirty. They'll be doing all kinds of freaky, kinky things with these other men, because they feel like with these other men, they could just discard them. Once again, dehumanization. And that's what I got sick of. I got sick and tired of the dehumanization, dealing with these emotional Hitlers. These men who claim to love other men, right? Love is love. Love is love. Is it love? Is it love? They claim to love other men, but yet and still can infect them, can disease them, can leave them, can block them, can cancel them. Is that love? It makes you wonder. I have the answer. No, that's not love. Because love is time tested. Here, they want to rush everything. They want a quick encounter. They want a quickie. And so after a while, you just get tired of being used. You get tired of feeling used. You get tired of feeling empty. You get tired of fighting a war and then wonder what you're fighting for. That's what I got tired. I got tired. What am I fighting for? I'm fighting for the right to die early. That's what it felt like. These boys want to put me in all kinds of dangerous situations. They don't ever ask me to open up the Bible. They don't ever ask me to go to my place of worship. They don't ask me to pray with them. And if they do ask me to pray for them, do they even know the God that I'm praying to? Do they even care? These boys never asked me these questions. Not one gay man in my life has ever asked me to open the scriptures with him, to go to church or go to a place of worship with him. Not one. And it's understandable, because many gay men feel as though God hates them. Many gay men feel as though the church demonizes them. And the truth is, God does not hate gay men. That's the truth. But he is calling them from out of the shadows and out of the darkness. And gay culture, truth be told, it glorifies darkness. That's the truth. It glorifies darkness. When you think about the back rooms and the basements and the trucks and the alleyways and the bathrooms, the places where lust transpires. These are all dark spaces, dingy spaces, unhealthy spaces, but yet and still, we glorify these spaces. And I know the historical context. I get it. But at what point do we move beyond history and begin to reimagine our own elevation, our own well-being? At what point? And so this is why I was motivated to walk away. I said, this is not who I am. For so long, I made my sexuality my identity, and to make gay sexuality my identity, especially a sexuality that can at times be so dark. It just did not set right with me. It didn't correspond with my spirituality. It didn't correspond with the light I wanted to project and shine. If I want to be an ambassador of God's glory, right? If I want to be an ambassador of God's glory, how can I ever be comfortable with the light? Matter of fact, how can I ever be comfortable with darkness? I'll rephrase that. If I am to be an ambassador of God's glory, how can I ever be comfortable staying in the dark? So it conflicted. There was a conflict, a dissonance. And when you have that dissonance, you have to begin to reimagine. You have to begin to rethink. And that's what I started to do. I started to rethink everything. So I thought I'd share this with you because I know that there are so many gay men who are leaving the life. They're saying no more. They're saying, I'm tired of getting no love. I'm tired of feeling empty, depressed, hopeless, drained, used, played, tricked, deceived. I'm tired of it. They're tired of it. And so they want a way out. Well, let this video be an invitation to you getting out, to you deciding that you want more than just a casual hookup. Empty nights at a bar. Empty stories to tell. Constant drama. Glorification of messy culture. Glorification of shade culture. Get tired. Get tired. And then begin to take the steps necessary to make yourself untired, to liberate yourself from the bondage of lust. Because that's what it is. Every day a new chain. You're chained to a link, and it's a link of dissatisfaction. You got to break the link, break the chains. Peace, y'all.